The quiet thought that woke the stars. What would happen if the sun just vanished? It's not the kind of question you ask at breakfast, but maybe one that floats quietly through your mind at night, after a long day, when the sky outside your window turns a soft, sleepy blue. Tonight, we're not trying to panic. We're not chasing doomsday. We're doing something far more gentle. We're imagining, slowly, calmly, like stargazing upside down. Because the sun is more than just a ball of light in the sky. It is warmth. It is rhythm. It is the heartbeat of the solar system, quietly keeping time while we live our little lives beneath it. But what if, one ordinary day, it simply disappeared? Would the world scream, or would it whisper? Tonight on The Sleepy Atom, we'll let go of fear and drift together through this soft cosmic what if. With every breath, we'll explore the strange beauty that unfolds when sunlight is no longer there, and how the quiet spaces left behind can sometimes say the most. So close your eyes if you'd like, or just listen. Let's begin this journey where everything begins, with the sun. What if it vanished right now? 1 minute it's there, bright, warm, familiar, and then gone. Just like that. No warning, no noise, no explosion, just empty sky where the sun used to live. It's strange to think how quiet the world would be. No birds startled, no sirens, no flicker. Just a sky that looks completely normal. At first, because light takes time to travel. The sunlight we see now isn't now at all. It left the sun over 8 minutes ago, so if it disappeared this second, we wouldn't know. Not right away. Imagine the sky, still shining, still blue. People walking their dogs, children heading to school. Somewhere, someone takes a photo of a perfect sunrise. All of it borrowed light from a star that no longer exists. For a little while, the Earth would go on pretending, unaware it had already been orphaned by its sun. And then it would arrive. The moment, the cut, the last photons striking our planet. Suddenly the sky would fall dark, not like night, not like clouds, but like the world had blinked. The air would still be warm for a moment, like a ghost of sunlight hugging your skin before vanishing forever. From that instant onward, nothing would orbit the same again. The Earth would stop circling. The moon would become lost. The balance we trusted would slip. And yet, the silence might be the most haunting part of all. We wouldn't know at first. There's something quietly chilling about delayed news. When you're the last to know something big has happened, and the world already changed while you were still brushing your teeth. That's exactly what would happen here. Because light is not instant. It moves fast, yes, unimaginably fast, but not infinite. The sun's light takes about 8 minutes and 20 seconds to reach Earth. So even if the sun disappeared right now, for the next 8 minutes, we'd still feel its glow, see its face, and live inside the illusion that everything is fine. It's like reading the last chapter of a story that already ended. The birds would keep singing. The wind would dance through trees. Solar panels would still collect invisible energy from a sun that, in reality, no longer burns. It's unsettling, but also beautiful. A small delay between truth and awareness. If you looked up, you'd still squint. Shadows would still fall long across sidewalks. Our clocks would tick forward without protest. And deep in the solar system, Jupiter and Saturn would continue their ancient dance, all of them following gravity that hadn't vanished, yet. But time is patient, and reality never forgets. As the final photons approach, the illusion fades. The show is over, and darkness comes not with a roar, but with a hush. The sky would stay blue. We often think the sky would turn black the moment the sun disappears, but for those strange final minutes, it wouldn't. The sky would still be blue, soft where familiar, as if nothing were wrong. blue skies come from scattered sunlight, tiny molecules in our atmosphere bending the short blue wavelengths of light in every direction. It's why the whole dome above us glows like a gentle lake. But that scattering only works while light keeps arriving. So when the sun vanishes, the scattered light continues for those 8 quiet minutes. The sky keeps its soft, sleepy colour. It's a comforting lie, a delicate afterimage, like the warmth of someone's hand still lingering on your shoulder after they've gone. It might be the most peaceful part of the whole event. Imagine standing outside, watching the breeze move the trees. Everything normal. Until, without warning, the blue begins to dim. Not like sunset, but like breath slowly leaving a room. Then, in a single blink, the colour would vanish. All that's left is black. Not night black, but space black. The kind of dark that's hungry, full of stars and stretches forever. And in that darkness, you'd see things you've never seen before. Stars you never knew were hiding, just waiting for the sun to move aside. The last sunrise forever. If someone caught the final sunrise on camera, that last breath of light before the sun was gone, they wouldn't know it was their last. That's the strange, gentle cruelty of it. That morning, millions of people would wake up to a perfectly normal dawn. Warm beams would touch mountaintops. Golden light would spill through windows. Roosters would crow and coffee would brew. The sky would blush with orange and people would stretch and yawn, just like always. But all of that light was already a memory, a final transmission. The sun, already missing, had left behind one last show. A sunrise built from echoes, not presence. And once those photons ran out, no more mornings. No more shadows slowly shrinking as the day begins. For most, they wouldn't realize until it was gone. Imagine thinking it's just a storm, just a blackout, just a strange glitch in the weather. But hours pass. The lights don't come back. The shadows don't return. There is no warm patch on the couch. Just cold, just confusion, just the beginning of forever night. That sunrise, the final one, becomes the most precious one. A simple dawn, never known for what it was, until it could never return. Gravity has a speed too. It might be easy to think only the light matters, but gravity travels too. And it doesn't move instantly either. Gravity, just like light, takes time. That's a strange thought. We imagine gravity as some invisible force that's always there, snapping things into orbits and keeping the planets in their lanes. But it's not static, it's dynamic. And if the sun disappeared, the ripple of its missing gravity would travel outward at the same speed as its light. That means Earth wouldn't just lose sunlight in those 8 minutes, it would also lose its anchor, its center, its pull. Suddenly, our gentle orbit becomes a straight line, not spiraling around the sun, but drifting endlessly through space. The moon? It's still tied to Earth, but its path shifts too. The tides stop being pulled. The Earth's spin over long years might loosen. Everything that used to have rhythm becomes wobble. And all because the thing that used to hold everything together let go. It's humbling. The sun doesn't just light our world. It holds it, balances it, whispers to every moon and planet and rock, stay close. And without that whisper, everything begins to scatter. Everything still feels normal. The strangest part isn't when the sun disappears. It's the part right after, when everything still feels the same. The warmth on your skin still lingers. The air still hums with life. Children still chase shadows that won't last much longer. You might check your phone and see no alerts. The street outside your window might look ordinary. Some cars still move, birds still fly. Somewhere, a couple might be laughing over breakfast, completely unaware that their world is already unrooted from its center. But slowly, very slowly, a tension arrives. Not dramatic, not loud, just something missing. The color of light begins to feel different. Reflections grow dimmer. Even the sound of the wind feels subtly off, like a theatre after the orchestra has stopped playing. People would try to explain it. Power outage, cloud cover, a strange eclipse. But time drags forward and nothing changes. The world doesn't brighten. No sunlight returns to the tops of trees. The longer it lasts, the more the quiet begins to grow inside people's chests. It's the waiting that unsettles. The realization that something is deeply wrong, and yet there is no alarm, no siren, no news anchor, just a growing hush that settles deeper and deeper over everything we've ever known. Then the planets slip away. Far beyond our skies, something even more haunting begins. One by one, the planets lose their anchor. Without the sun's gravity, their elegant orbits dissolve, and they begin to drift into space like unmoored ships on a starless sea. Mercury, closest to the missing light, tumbles first. Then Venus, Earth, Mars, all slipping quietly into straight-line trajectories. No curves, no loops, just cold inertia carrying them into the unknown, forever and ever outward. Jupiter, the gas giant protector, now floats aimlessly. Saturn, with its golden rings, begins its lonely journey across the galaxy. Uranus and Neptune, blue and frozen, become ghosts, still spinning, still regal, but with nowhere to orbit. There's no crash, no dramatic explosion. It's all slow, silent, like marbles rolling off a table in slow motion. The solar system becomes a broken mobile, the kind that once spun above a child's crib, now still and scattered across the void. And in that scattered silence, the memory of our sun becomes even more sacred. Not because it was bright, not because it was hot, but because it held everything. And when it let go, the universe exhaled, and all its children floated away. The earth begins to drift. Without the sun's pull, the earth no longer has a center to circle. It doesn't stop moving, it just stops curving. Instead, it drifts forward in a straight line, carrying everything we know with it, deeper into the unknown. No one on the surface would feel it, not right away. Gravity on Earth still works. We don't fall off, but direction is gone. The gentle arc we followed for billions of years is no longer there. We've been released. And this new direction, it's arbitrary, based on the moment of disappearance. A path carved by momentum alone, not toward another star or safety, but just onward, through space so vast that it makes the idea of lost feel meaningless. The stars outside grow brighter, not because we're closer, but because there's no solar glare anymore. The universe stares back at us now, every point of light sharper, every shadow deeper. Earth is no longer orbiting a parent, it's wandering. There's something beautiful and terrifying about that, to be set free, to be cut loose, to carry our oceans, our cities, our stories, into an interstellar night we may never truly understand. The moon doesn't orbit anymore. We don't often think about the moon as a fragile dance partner, but without the sun holding Earth in place, that entire dance falls apart. The moon doesn't orbit Earth like it used to. It shifts, slowly but surely, into its own strange rhythm. At first it might appear normal, rising, setting, glowing, as it always has. But its path would begin to wobble. The tides would grow erratic. Eventually the gravitational harmony between Earth and moon would break down. The moon might start drifting away from us, caught in a strange tug between Earth's gravity and our new straight-line trajectory. Or it might collide, not catastrophically, but gradually pulled into a decaying orbit over long centuries. Imagine the sky with no familiar moon, no soft silver circle watching us at night, no tide to guide the ocean's breath, no glowing partner to whisper through the windows of children falling asleep. And yet, in that loss, we're reminded of how delicate the balance is, how two spheres, Earth and Moon, have danced in perfect silence for so long, and how even silence has structure until it doesn't. The sky becomes a black canvas. When the sun vanishes, the darkness isn't like nighttime. It's not a cozy dimming, not a soft quiet. It's something else. A raw, unfiltered blackness. A canvas of the cosmos, suddenly uncovered. At first it's overwhelming. The absence of sunlight reveals the full depth of the universe. Stars we've never seen before. Galaxies too faint to shine through daytime. The Milky Way arches overhead like spilled diamond dust. There's no blue now, no clouds, no gold on the horizon, just the infinite shimmer of space, crisp, ancient, and deeply humbling. Our world becomes a raft drifting through a glowing ocean of stars, without a lighthouse in sight. In some ways, it's the most beautiful night the world has ever seen, but also the loneliest. Without the sun, the sky no longer changes. No sunrise, no sunset, no passing of time as we once measured it. Just eternal starlight and the quiet hum of everything moving away. And as we gaze into that starlit black, we realize the sun didn't just give us heat, it gave us contrast, rhythm, direction. Its disappearance doesn't take away light, it changes what we notice in the dark. No sun, no warmth. Without sunlight, the earth doesn't freeze right away. It begins slowly, like forgetting what summer feels like. The warmth doesn't vanish, it just starts to fade, like breath on a mirror. For the first few days, you might not even notice. The air would still hold on to yesterday's heat. Buildings and soil and oceans have memories. They store warmth like fading echoes. But with no new energy coming in, those echoes begin to disappear. The temperature begins to fall. Not all at once, but steadily. Every hour just a little colder than the last. A coat that once felt perfect now feels thin. A cup of tea cools too fast. Your fingers take longer to warm each morning. And as the days turn into weeks, the earth begins to forget what warmth was. The average surface temperature drops below freezing. Plants slow down. Insects vanish. The ground hardens. Even the sky, no longer touched by sunlight, starts to look sharper, hungrier. It's the beginning of the long cold, not a sudden winter, but a quiet withdrawal. A slow exhale of all the heat we ever knew, with no inhale to follow. Photosynthesis stops. Every green leaf you've ever seen, every tree, every blade of grass, every sprout on your windowsill, owes its life to the sun. And when that light is gone, so is their breath. Photosynthesis is the quiet magic plants use to turn light into energy. With it, they feed themselves, release oxygen, and build the base of nearly every food chain on Earth. But the moment sunlight stops arriving, that magic begins to end. At first, plants might hold on. Some can last days, even weeks, by slowing their metabolism and feeding off their own stored sugars. But without the sun's energy, they can't grow, they can't bloom, and slowly they begin to fade. The forests fall silent first, then the fields, then the last houseplants quietly drooping on kitchen windowsills. Without plants, herbivores begin to starve, and with them the predators that relied on them. One by one, the dominoes of life begin to lean. It's not a fast collapse, but it's certain and silent, because plants don't scream, they don't run, they just dim and disappear. The first frosts arrive. Within a week, the earth begins to feel unfamiliar. The ground grows harder, the air thinner. Frost no longer arrives in the early hours, it stays all day. Without the sun's daily warmth, the atmosphere can't regulate itself. Day and night become meaningless. Every hour brings colder air. Each breath feels sharper. A puddle freezes in minutes. Lakes crust over. Rain stops falling. Clouds thin and vanish. Even cities begin to feel brittle. Pipes crack. Roads buckle. Power lines sag under ice. People bundle in layers, but it's never quite enough. The cold sneaks in, under doors, through windows, into bones. And outside the cities, the wild begins to fall still. Birds migrate without destination. Animals burrow deep, searching for a warmth that doesn't return. Trees snap under the pressure of their own frozen limbs. It's not an apocalypse in fire, it's an ending in stillness. Frost becomes the new dust, a coating that touches everything, a reminder that without the sun, even motion forgets itself. Lights go on around the world. At first, people resist. The darkness is a problem to be solved, so they light their homes, their cities, their roads. Earth begins to glow, not from the sky, but from inside itself. Street lamps stretch their reach. Buildings stay lit through the endless night. Solar panels go dark, but generators and batteries hum in their place. Some places burn fuel, others turn to nuclear, but every light is borrowed, temporary. From space, Earth looks like a net of tiny fires, bright spots scattered across a black marble. But this glow is not sunlight. It doesn't warm. It doesn't feed. It doesn't last. People stay indoors longer. Sleep cycles break. Without sunrise or sunset, time loses its rhythm. Morning coffee happens at midnight. Children learn under artificial skies. The illusion of normalcy flickers, but can't hold forever. And the deeper the cold gets, the more the light struggles. Power grids collapse. Fuel runs dry. The hum of electricity gives way to silence, and the lights that once felt like resistance begin to fade. One city at a time. The oceans hold heat, for now. Of all the Earth's memories, the oceans hold the deepest. Vast reservoirs of warmth, they become Earth's final fireplace, quietly releasing their stored heat into the sky. Water cools slowly. For weeks, maybe months, the surface of the ocean stays above freezing. Life below continues in slow motion. Fish swim through fading warmth. Currents drift like tired lungs exhaling for the last time. But even the oceans cannot keep warmth forever. Without the sun feeding their surface, they begin to cool from the top down. Ice forms at the edges, first near the poles, then creeping toward the equator like long white fingers. Below, the darkness thickens. Creatures of the deep, already adapted to cold, carry on. For a while, hydrothermal vents keep small pockets of life alive. But with no surface warmth, the cycle begins to break. The seas, once teeming and blue, grow black and slow. Ice sheets stretch, waves fall still, and the ocean, once the Earth's most generous heatkeeper, becomes its most silent grave. Earth's surface temperature plummets. By the end of the first month, the word cold no longer feels useful. It's not weather anymore, it's physics. The surface temperature drops below minus 30 degrees Celsius, then minus 50, then colder still. Homes freeze from the inside out. Even if the power stays on, walls can't keep up. Furniture ices over. Breath turns to frost in mid-air. Every sound seems softer now, as if the air is thick with silence. Outside, cars become sculptures. Trees crack in half under the strain of frozen sap. The sky, though still filled with stars, begins to look harder. Like it's made of glass, not air. Frost creeps into everything. Not just places, but language. People stop asking about weather. There is no weather, no clouds, No seasons, just an endless fall in temperature, slow, steady, unrelenting. And yet there is something oddly peaceful about it, like the earth has taken a deep breath and is finally resting. Cold is no longer coming, it has arrived, and it's everywhere. What would you wear to survive? Fashion disappears. Style gives way to survival. If you were still alive at this stage, your clothing would look more like armor than outfit, layer upon layer. Thermal suits, plastic insulation, reflective sheeting. Heated vests, if you had the power. Your boots would crunch on frost indoors. Your breath would fog your goggles. And your hands, always too cold no matter the gloves. Sleeping bags become permanent clothing. People wrap themselves like cocoons, losing the idea of day wear or night wear. There is no outside. The only thing outside is death. Inside bunkers or domes, if such places existed, people might circulate warmth carefully, rationing heat like food. The goal isn't comfort anymore. The goal is not to freeze solid in your sleep. And if you ever needed to step outside, just for a moment, it would take minutes to prepare, and maybe hours to forget what your face felt like. Clothing becomes your second skin, but even that may not be enough. Animals begin to vanish. Without light, without warmth, and without plants, the animal kingdom begins to fall quiet, not in chaos, not in fear, just stillness, as if the earth is exhaling all its creatures back into the silence. The small ones go first. Insects vanish. Birds stop singing. The forests fall quiet like empty cathedrals. No rustle in the leaves, no buzz in the air, just cold bark and colder soil. Then the grazers, deer, antelope, rabbits. With no plants to eat, they grow weaker. They huddle, then disappear. And without them, the predators follow, not in a chase, but in a shared collapse. Some animals retreat underground. Some try to hibernate through what can't be hibernated. In the oceans, a few fish linger in the deep, cold dark, but eventually the chain breaks. And when it does, so does the rhythm of life. No more footprints in the snow, no tracks, no calls, no chase. The animals don't leave loudly, they don't even leave visibly, they just stop. And in their silence, the earth becomes emptier than it's ever been. Underground cities? If humanity were to survive, it wouldn't be under sunlight, it would be beneath the soil, underground, hidden, huddled in warmth that doesn't come from the sky, but from the core of the earth. In theory, we could dig deep, build geothermal shelters, small cities beneath the ice, use Earth's natural heat to survive. It wouldn't be luxury, but it could be life. These cities would be tight, dimensions, warm in the center, cold at the edges, every wall insulated, every meal rationed, crops grown in artificial light, water recycled endlessly. People might not see the surface for years. The entrance to such cities would be sealed like time capsules. Above, the world would freeze. Below, a whisper of humanity might carry on, not thriving, just continuing, quietly, carefully, together. But even these cities have limits. Supplies dwindle, machines fail, people grow tired. The Earth's core gives warmth, but not endlessly. And so these cities become not just shelters, but memorials for what once was above. How long until the oceans freeze? Water is stubborn. It remembers the sun long after everything else forgets. But even oceans, vast and deep as they are, must surrender eventually. At first, only the surface freezes. Thin sheets of ice stretch outward, then feet of ice, then meters. The oceans don't wave anymore, they creak. They shift like old bones under pressure. Underneath, the water remains liquid for a while, insulated by the very ice that traps it. Life down there clings to hydrothermal vents, those rare hot cracks in the sea floor where Earth breathes out heat. But as years pass, the ice thickens, the crust becomes heavier, lightless, movement slows, bacteria give way to silence, and finally, even the oceans forget how to be water, frozen solid, from top to bottom. The ocean that once covered most of the Earth becomes a planet-wide tomb of frozen memory, the last mirror of sunlight locked in place, never to ripple again. And when the oceans freeze, the Earth becomes something new, no longer a living world, but a quiet, glittering sphere, drifting without destination through the deepest dark, 50 degrees Celsius and falling. When Earth drops to minus 50 degrees Celsius across its surface, it stops feeling like climate and starts feeling like outer space, the kind of cold where even sounds move differently, slower, softer, more distant. At this temperature, your breath doesn't just fog, it crystallizes. It floats as ice dust. Door handles become sharp with frostbite. Skin freezes in seconds. Metal burns to the touch like fire, only backwards. Nature, once unpredictable, becomes consistent in the most brutal way. No more storms, no more seasons. Just one long, unchanging whisper of freezing air, the kind that carries no scent, no warmth, no memory of the wind that once played with your hair. And the strange thing is, this isn't even the bottom. The cold keeps falling. Every degree lower slows chemistry itself. Chemical reactions pause. Batteries die. Motors freeze. Even the idea of movement starts to fade from memory. There's a silence in this level of cold that's unlike any other, not because there's nothing left to hear, but because even the air doesn't want to move anymore. The atmosphere starts to collapse. We don't often think of air as something fragile, but without the sun's heat to hold it aloft, Earth's atmosphere begins to fall, not all at once, but gently, like a blanket sinking into snow. At first it grows thinner, pressure drops, breathing becomes laboured, even indoors. Fires flicker out, not for lack of fuel, but for lack of oxygen. The sky becomes darker, clearer, almost too clear, like a vacuum pressing in from above. Eventually, gases like nitrogen and oxygen begin to condense. In the extreme cold, even carbon dioxide can freeze out of the air. The atmosphere begins to form a thin, icy shell on the planet's surface. Air becoming snow. It's a strange reversal. The thing we once breathed now lays frozen across the ground, not invisible anymore, but pale, glittering crystals that used to live in our lungs. And as the atmosphere sinks, sound begins to die too. There's no medium to carry it. Shouts don't echo. Footsteps don't crunch. In this deep silence, the earth forgets its own voice. Snow without clouds. You wouldn't think snow could fall without clouds, but here, in the sunless world, it does. A different kind of snow, not from water vapour, but from the very gases we used to breathe. This is not the snow of holiday cards or mountain slopes. It doesn't flutter. It settles. Slowly. A fine, dry frost that forms from a collapsing sky. Nitrogen drifting down like flour. Oxygen clinging to windows like silver dust. There's no wind to stir it, no sunlight to melt it, just a slow accumulation of the planet's former breath, layering quietly across everything. Over time, it buries streets, cars, forests, cities, all under a snow that doesn't melt. Walking through it would feel like moving through a dream. Soft crunches, sharp air, a silence so deep it presses against your ears. Every breath recycled, every exhale visible for miles in the cold stillness. And yet, in this eerie snowfall, there's a kind of beauty. A reminder that even in collapse, nature has grace. Even in death, the planet moves with poetry. Would you see your breath forever? In a world without sun, the simple act of breathing becomes a visual experience. Your breath doesn't just fog, it becomes a kind of presence, a ribbon of vapor that follows you, lingers, and then freezes. At these temperatures, every exhale becomes a trail of tiny crystals, the kind that drift behind you like soft smoke, catching starlight, then falling. It's beautiful and haunting. A reminder of warmth leaving your body, one sigh at a time. Over time, even this changes. The colder it gets, the quicker your breath freezes. Eventually it stops floating, it falls, it shatters. Some of it might even stick to your scarf as frost, your own life vapor turning solid in real time. There's a strange intimacy to it, watching your breath become part of the world, not in metaphor, but literally. You're not just in the cold, you're slowly becoming it, and in those moments, surrounded by your own frozen air, you might look up at the star-filled sky and wonder how something as simple as breathing ever felt invisible before. Tunnels of heated hope. When the world above becomes uninhabitable, the only direction left is down. And so we dig. Tunnels, chambers, shelters warmed by the earth itself. Not thriving, just surviving. Barely. These underground habitats rely on geothermal energy, warmth stored deep inside the earth, still untouched by the loss of sunlight. Temperatures that hover just above freezing, but feel like heaven compared to the frozen silence above. Inside these tunnels, people live differently. Time becomes circular. Days lose meaning. Fluorescent lights hum softly. Meals are small but warm. Laughter is quiet, rationed like oxygen. Survival is not a victory. It's a decision repeated every single day. There might be schools, gardens lit by artificial bulbs, rooms lined with heat coils, the air recycled, the water purified, every resource accounted for. Humanity becomes a whisper, careful, focused, and reverent of every watt of energy. But outside, the tunnels frost over. Above ground becomes legend. Children born below never see a sky. And yet, somewhere in these quiet chambers of heated hope, a story continues. A flicker of what it meant to be human. A seed waiting for sunlight that may never return. Volcanoes keep the earth breathing. Even when the skies go black and the oceans freeze, Earth's core remains alive. Deep within, pressure and fire still churn, and in rare places that heat breaks through the ice, as volcanoes. Most volcanoes would seem unchanged at first. Their rhythm doesn't depend on the sun. Magma still flows. Geysers still hiss. These eruptions would become Earth's only natural source of warmth, strange beacons of life in a frozen world. Around each volcano, small circles of possibility would form. Ice would melt, air would warm slightly, and life, microbes, maybe even small animals, could cluster around the heat like travelers around a campfire. Some humans might build near these zones, not for comfort, but for survival. Shelters carved into rock, warmed by geothermal vents. The walls would shake at times. Ash might fall like dark snow. But warmth is warmth, and in this new world, that means everything. Volcanoes become more than mountains. They become lungs, the last places on Earth where nature still remembers how to breathe. Could fires still burn? You might imagine lighting a fire in the cold to keep yourself warm, but without a proper atmosphere, fire becomes a rare and delicate thing, something you must coax, not command. Fires need oxygen, and with the atmosphere thinning, every flame must be carefully fed. Indoors, fires could still exist, in pressurized shelters, in oxygen-controlled rooms. But outside, they'd flicker, sputter, and die. The materials might still burn. Wood, fuel, oil, they haven't changed. But without the right environment, even a match becomes a luxury. and every spark is precious. Fire becomes sacred again, not decorative, not optional, survival. You might sit near one, bundled in everything you own, watching it dance softly, not for light, not even for cooking, just for the feeling, the primal comfort of heat, of movement, of something living in a world that's gone so still. And maybe in that moment you'd whisper stories to the flame, not to keep it burning, but to remember what warmth used to mean. Stars become our only light. In the absence of the sun, the stars no longer compete. They don't blink against a bright sky. They dominate it. Bold, clear, cold. A map that never turns off. For the first time in human history, the sky would be filled with stars. Thousands more than we've ever seen before. Galaxies once hidden in daylight would become visible with the naked eye. The Milky Way would drape across the heavens like spilled milk across velvet. But there's no warmth in that beauty. The stars are cold companions. Their light is ancient, some older than Earth itself. They twinkle not because they're close, but because the air is still shifting, even now. And under that sky people might feel smaller than ever, more alone too. The stars remind us of the sun, what it once was, how bright it used to be. They shine, but they don't replace. Still, they guide, they inspire, and for anyone left on Earth, they become the last candlelight of the cosmos, a distant memory of warmth in a world gone dark. Machines keep moving, then stop. In the early days, machines kept the world alive. Generators, heaters, lights, purifiers. Everything that hummed or blinked or rotated became vital. But machines, like people, get tired. Some ran on fuel, and that ran out first. Others on solar, and that ended the day the light did. The strongest ran on nuclear energy or geothermal power, but even they had limits. Parts froze, lubricants solidified, metal cracked from cold stress. Gradually the humming stopped. One by one the lights flickered off. Not in drama, just quietly, like someone gently turning down the volume on civilization. And when machines stopped, the silence deepened. It wasn't just the absence of sound, it was the absence of effort, of movement, of trying. It was like the world had decided finally to go still. In that stillness, people gathered closer, around each other, around anything that still worked. Maybe it was a wind-up radio, maybe a crank flashlight, maybe just a memory. But in that quiet, even machines became part of the story. Would Earth ever be warm again? And now, the question that lingers in every frozen breath. Could Earth ever be warm again? Could the sun come back? Could another star pass close enough to cradle us in its gravity? The odds are almost impossible. Stars are spaced light years apart. Earth's straight-line drift may never intersect another sunbeam. It might wander through the darkness for eons, a marble lost in a cosmic forest. But warmth could return in other forms. A rogue planet with a hot core, an artificial sun built by future survivors. Or, perhaps deep in the planet's crust, something is still glowing, waiting, hoping. And then there's the human spirit. We are creatures of fire and dream. We've lived in ice before. We've built light when there was none. Maybe someday someone finds a way to bring warmth back, not just to the planet, but to the heart. So would Earth ever be warm again? Maybe not in temperature, but perhaps in memory, in story, in the way we remember what sunlight felt like on our skin long after it's gone. Volcanoes keep the Earth breathing. Even when the skies go black and the oceans freeze, Earth's core remains alive. Deep within, pressure and fire still churn, and in rare places that heat breaks through the ice. As volcanoes. Most volcanoes would seem unchanged at first. Their rhythm doesn't depend on the sun. Magma still flows, geysers still hiss. These eruptions would become Earth's only natural source of warmth, strange beacons of life in a frozen world. Around each volcano, small circles of possibility would form. Ice would melt, air would warm slightly, and life, microbes, maybe even small animals, could cluster around the heat like travelers around a campfire. Some humans might build near these zones, not for comfort, but for survival. Shelters carved into rock, warmed by geothermal vents. The walls would shake at times, ash might fall like dark snow, but warmth is warmth, and in this new world that means everything. Volcanoes become more than mountains. They become lungs. The last places on Earth where nature still remembers how to breathe. Could fires still burn? You might imagine lighting a fire in the cold to keep yourself warm, but without a proper atmosphere, fire becomes a rare and delicate thing, something you must coax, not command. Fires need oxygen, and with the atmosphere thinning, every flame must be carefully fed. Indoors, fires could still exist, in pressurized shelters, in oxygen-controlled rooms, but outside, they'd flicker, sputter, and die. The materials might still burn. Wood, fuel, oil, they haven't changed. But without the right environment, even a match becomes a luxury. And every spark is precious. Fire becomes sacred again, not decorative, not optional. Survival. You might sit near one, bundled in everything you own, watching it dance softly. Not for light, not even for cooking, just for the feeling, the primal comfort of heat, of movement, of something living in a world that's gone so still. And maybe in that moment you'd whisper stories to the flame, not to keep it burning, but to remember what warmth used to mean. Stars become our only light. In the absence of the sun, the stars no longer compete. They don't blink against a bright sky. They dominate it, bold, clear, cold, a map that never turns off. For the first time in human history, the sky would be filled with stars, thousands more than we've ever seen before. Galaxies once hidden in daylight would become visible with the naked eye. The Milky Way would drape across the heavens like spilled milk across velvet. But there's no warmth in that beauty. The stars are cold companions. Their light is ancient, some older than Earth itself. They twinkle not because they're close, but because the air is still shifting, even now. And under that sky people might feel smaller than ever, more alone too. The stars remind us of the sun, what it once was, how bright it used to be. They shine, but they don't replace. Still, they guide, they inspire, and for anyone left on Earth, they become the last candlelight of the cosmos, a distant memory of warmth in a world gone dark. Machines keep moving, then stop. In the early days, machines kept the world alive. Generators, heaters, lights, purifiers. Everything that hummed or blinked or rotated became vital. But machines, like people, get tired. Some ran on fuel, and that ran out first. Others on solar, and that ended the day the light did. The strongest ran on nuclear energy or geothermal power. But even they had limits. Parts froze, lubricants solidified, metal cracked from cold stress. Gradually the humming stopped. One by one the lights flickered off. Not in drama, just quietly, like someone gently turning down the volume on civilization. And when machines stopped, the silence deepened. It wasn't just the absence of sound, it was the absence of effort, of movement, of trying. It was like the world had decided finally to go still. In that stillness, people gathered closer, around each other, around anything that still worked. Maybe it was a wind-up radio, maybe a crank flashlight, maybe just a memory. But in that quiet, even machines became part of the story. Would Earth ever be warm again? And now, the question that lingers in every frozen breath: could Earth ever be warm again? Could the sun come back? Could another star pass close enough to cradle us in its gravity? The odds are almost impossible. Stars are spaced light years apart. Earth's straight-line drift may never intersect another sunbeam. It might wander through the darkness for eons, a marble lost in a cosmic forest. But warmth could return in other forms. A rogue planet with a hot core, an artificial sun built by future survivors, or perhaps deep in the planet's crust, something is still glowing, waiting, hoping. And then there's the human spirit. We are creatures of fire and dream. We've lived in ice before. We've built light when there was none. Maybe someday someone finds a way to bring warmth back, not just to the planet, but to the heart. So would Earth ever be warm again? Maybe not in temperature, but perhaps in memory, in story, in the way we remember what sunlight felt like on our skin long after it's gone. The deepest caves still whisper life. Even in a frozen world, the Earth has crevices that hold on. Deep caves, untouched by light for millions of years, now become some of the last places where life might whisper. In these ancient hollows, temperatures stay stable. Geothermal warmth lingers. Water still drips. Microbes survive in stone. These caves are not cozy, but they are consistent. And in a world of sudden collapse, consistency is everything. Some animals may retreat here. Bats long since gone, but insects, bacteria, and strange pale creatures with no eyes, they remain. Unaware that the sky above them has turned to glass, humans too might find refuge in such places, not to thrive, but to persist. The walls damp, the ceilings low, the air thick. But here you can still light a candle, still boil water, still breathe. And maybe, in the hush of a cave so far removed from sunlight, someone writes a message on the wall, not to be read soon, but someday, a warm memory in cool stone. Moonlight without the sun? Here's a strange thought. What happens to moonlight when the sun disappears? The answer softly is that it disappears too. The moon has no light of its own. It was always just a mirror. Once the sun goes dark, the moon stops glowing. It remains, a cold grey stone hanging in the sky. But it doesn't shine. It becomes invisible to the naked eye, except when caught in the glint of starlight or earthshine. For the first time in history, there are no phases, no crescents, no full moons to signal tides or time or longing. The poetry of moonlight, all the songs and dreams it carried, now silenced. And yet, it's still there, hanging above the frozen earth like a memory. The moon doesn't vanish, it just waits, like an old friend sitting quietly in a dark room. Sometimes knowing something is still there, even if you can't see it, brings a kind of comfort. Like moonlight that forgot how to glow, but not how to stay. Would the planets still orbit? When the sun disappears, do the planets stop spinning? No, and that's part of what makes this story stranger. The sun is not just light, it's gravity. And unless the sun physically vanishes, that gravity continues. Planets would still orbit. They'd follow the same elliptical paths. Earth would keep circling an invisible center, like a ghost ship tethered to a vanished lighthouse. It's eerie to imagine a full solar system still moving, still aligned, but lifeless. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, each drifting through a void where the central fire used to live. Moons would still dance around their planets. Rings would still glimmer in the cold. The machinery of the heavens doesn't stop easily. It keeps ticking, even if no one hears it anymore. There's a quiet dignity in that, a kind of cosmic habit, the planets turning not because they are told to, but because it's all they've ever known. No more shadows. Without the sun, shadows cease to exist, not just in the poetic sense, but literally. With no direct light, there's nothing to block, nothing to bend. You could walk forever and never cast a shape. It's strange because shadows were once so familiar. They told the time, they stretched at dusk, they danced on walls and whispered of motion. But now, in this dim world of starlight and artificial bulbs, shadows blur into the dark. Your body becomes unanchored. You look down and there's nothing that follows you. It feels subtle at first, but eventually deeply unsettling, as if the world forgot how to reflect you. Even artificial light doesn't create the same kind of contrast. Without solar sharpness, shadows become faint halos, more like smudges than silhouettes. They exist, but only barely. And maybe that's the saddest part. Not the darkness, but the absence of shape, of presence. A world where you no longer see yourself in the light you once blocked. The last seeds wait underground. Buried deep in vaults and labs across the globe are seeds, stored in silence, protected from weather, time, and even nuclear war. They were built to wait, and now they wait for a sun that may never come. The Svalbard Global Seed Vault in Norway is one such place. Hidden in the Arctic permafrost, it holds over 1 million seed varieties, a backup of Earth's food supply. It was built for catastrophe, but not this. These seeds don't need light to survive. Not for now. They're frozen, preserved, quiet, but they hold something incredible, the potential to grow. If somehow warmth and light returned, they could become forests, fields, fruits again. And that's where the story breathes a little. Because even in all this cold, there is still potential. Something unbroken. A pause, not a period. Seeds are promises. Tiny packages of life that don't need a reason, just a chance. So maybe, somewhere underground, these seeds wait. And maybe someone alive remembers. And maybe, one day, the world remembers how to grow again. Earth becomes a fossil. Without the sun to nourish it, the earth stops growing, stops changing. Slowly, almost respectfully, it begins to fossilize. Not just plants or bones, but everything. Cities, oceans, clouds, memories. Buildings freeze in place. Windows crack. Books crumble without warmth. The last footprints in the snow harden into stone. Even language disappears from signs, worn away not by wind, but by stillness. The forests become statues, branches caught mid-sway, frozen in their last moment of dance. Roads lose their purpose. Vehicles freeze over like ancient relics in a museum, Earth never meant to build. And with time, everything flattens, collapses. Dust becomes glass. Wood turns brittle. Earth, the living archive, becomes a closed book. One that might drift silently for millions of years, waiting for someone, or something, to pick it up again. It's strange to think of our home like that. Not dead exactly, but preserved. A planetary fossil, not of failure, but of pause. A still life painting of what it once meant to be alive. No more seasons. Seasons were once our heartbeat. Spring's bloom, summer's light, autumn's release, winter's hush. But without the sun, time stops having rhythm. The calendar unwinds. There is only one season now, eternal winter. No buds, no blossoms, no warm rain, no snowstorms either, just endless cold. Nothing grows, so nothing sheds. Trees no longer know when to sleep because they never knew how to wake without light. Holidays drift into memory. Cultures built around seasons, solstices, harvests, migrations, fade into silence. The idea of June or October loses all meaning. Time becomes measured only by survival, not by story. Even colours begin to vanish. Without seasons to paint the earth, with golden leaves, pink blossoms, green fields, everything dulls. The planet loses its wardrobe, becomes a grayscale sphere drifting through deep space. And yet, somewhere deep inside the heart of the Earth, there may still be a ticking, a soft, forgotten pulse. A reminder that the world once turned not just in orbit, but in feeling. Time begins to blur. With the sun gone, clocks keep ticking, but people don't. Days lose meaning without sunrise. Nights no longer fall, they just remain. Inside shelters, time becomes elastic, strange, and deeply human. People create their own schedules. Artificial days marked by lights turning on and off. Meals happen not at noon or dusk, but whenever someone remembers to eat. Sleep comes when it can, not when it should. The body begins to forget what rhythm feels like. Circadian rhythms flatten, hormones shift, memories blur. Was it yesterday or last week? In this world, such questions become both unanswerable and unimportant. Time becomes communal. One person says it's morning, and others agree, just for comfort. It's been a long day, someone says, and it feels true, even if no one knows how long it's really been. And perhaps that's the quiet miracle of time. It bends not to stars, but to stories. Even in endless darkness, humans still count moments, not with clocks, but with feelings. What would aliens see? If another civilization were drifting through the cosmos and happened to find Earth in this frozen state, what would they see? A ghost planet? A puzzle? A preserved mystery waiting to be read? They might descend through the cold black atmosphere and land gently on ancient stone. Scan our buildings, examine our art, find our buried seeds, touch pages left on desks, fingers long gone. Would they understand what happened? That a sun once lived here? That warmth once wrapped around this world like a breath? Would they mourn for us, or simply marvel? Perhaps they'd see the beauty, the silence, the care in our structures, the rhythm in our ruins. Perhaps they'd whisper to each other, "Someone loved this place once," and they'd be right. Or maybe they'd take a seed, a single frozen whisper of earth, carry it home, plant it, and from that, maybe, Earth would live again, not in space but in memory. Earth, the silent storyteller. In the end, Earth doesn't scream, it doesn't break, it doesn't burn, it simply falls quiet. And in that quiet it becomes something new, a storyteller whispering its history to the stars without saying a word. Every crater holds a secret, every glacier, a moment, every frozen wave and windless forest is a chapter. Earth becomes a book written in silence, bound in ice, and illuminated by starlight. No one may be left to read it, no hands to trace the words. But the story remains. The architecture of memory doesn't need an audience to exist. And maybe, just maybe, some distant soul in a different galaxy wonders where warmth once lived. And Earth, drifting softly through the dark, is their answer. A planet that once burned with colour, with movement, with life, and in that way, Earth never really disappears. It just becomes story, one that begins with light, pauses in darkness, and never truly ends. The sky that never changes. With the sun gone, the sky becomes permanent, not just dark, but motionless, like a painting that never fades, never brightens, never shifts its colour or mood. Constellations remain frozen in place, no longer rotating from horizon to horizon. Orion stands still. The Big Dipper never tips. Polaris always watches. The celestial ballet that once marked time becomes a still frame. It might feel calming at first, to look up and always see the same stars, like old friends who never leave. But slowly the lack of change grows heavy. The world above stops telling time, and the mind starts floating. In that frozen sky, stories begin to echo differently. The myths tied to stars lose their tempo. Astrology forgets its rhythm. Navigation becomes obsolete. And the sky just watches without saying anything back. Still, there's a comfort in its silence, a reminder that not all beauty requires movement, that sometimes stillness can be its own kind of miracle. Children who never knew the sun. Imagine a child born underground, in shelter, in tunnels, in artificial light. Their first breath wrapped not in warm daylight, but in the quiet hum of recycled air and electric glow. They'd hear stories of the sun, pictures, holograms, songs about warmth, but it would all sound like mythology. It used to light the sky, someone might say. It made flowers open their eyes. But to them, that's fantasy. Their concept of colour would be different. So would their concept of time. No shadows, no weather. A world without butterflies or tree houses or sunburns. Childhood without seasons. And yet they'd still play, still laugh, still ask big questions. Humanity never needed the sun to wonder. And maybe in those young eyes, the earth is still a place of magic, just a different kind. Sometimes it's not what we remember, but what we imagine that keeps hope alive. Earth becomes a star map. With light pollution gone and skies crystal clear, Earth's surface becomes a perfect lens. Telescopes see farther. Stars appear sharper. The universe opens up like never before. Scientists, or whoever remains, might dedicate their time to looking outward, cataloguing galaxies, mapping dark matter, searching for something, someone, somewhere warmer. Earth becomes the observer, not the center. Cities turn into observatories. Satellite dishes rise like sunflowers in reverse, not seeking heat, but knowledge, hoping to hear a signal, a word, an invitation. Maybe the cold sharpens the mind. Maybe in the quiet, humanity listens better. And maybe, just maybe, that listening leads to discovery. Not of survival, but of connection. Sometimes, when you stop speaking, you start hearing things that were always there. Can memory keep a world alive? If no one remembers you, do you still exist? That's a question the earth now faces. And yet, memory has power, great power. Even in the cold, stories carry warmth. Songs about sunlight, diaries describing summers, paintings of sunrises, recordings of laughter under blue skies. These fragments become more than nostalgia. They become the last firelight of a forgotten world. Inside shelters, people gather around memories the way we once gathered around campfires. Not just to remember, but to feel again, to dream again, to remind each other that warmth was real. Even if the sun never returns, its memory might, and in that memory something lives, not physically, not botanically, but emotionally, spiritually, in the soft, fragile embers of storytelling. Because a planet is more than rock. It's the feelings we had upon it, and those don't freeze so easily. The universe moves on. Eventually the universe forgets, not cruelly, just naturally. Stars are born, galaxies shift, black holes drift. Time doesn't pause for one blue marble, no matter how bright it once was. Other civilizations rise, other suns shine, other worlds bloom and fade. Earth, now quiet, becomes a background star, a soft note in a symphony of motion. But perhaps somewhere a signal still plays, a transmission from long ago, a lullaby beamed into space. We were here, we lived, we danced in sunlight, and we loved. Maybe no one hears it, or maybe one distant being on one quiet planet closes its eyes and listens. And in that one moment, just for a breath, the memory of Earth becomes warm again. Echoes in the ionosphere. Long after the last human word is spoken, echoes may still drift through Earth's atmosphere. Not sound, but radio waves, bits of language, fragments of thought, trapped in the ionosphere like ghosts. Old transmissions bounce around the sky, songs from the 20th century, news broadcasts, emergency beacons no one hears anymore. They swirl above the surface like lonely birds that forgot how to land. Some of these signals were sent out to space on purpose. Golden records, digital maps, invitations to the stars. Others were accidents, private words caught in public frequencies, whispers wrapped in static. Without solar radiation to stir the atmosphere, some of these waves may linger far longer, trapped, preserved. A library of noise that quietly circles the planet long after voices fall silent, and perhaps in some distant future something will listen, pick up a fading melody, decode a hello, and realize this planet once spoke in rhythm. When the oceans turn to stone, the oceans once held life's first breath. Now they become its last monument. As the sun disappears, surface water freezes. But over centuries, even the depths begin to harden. At first only the top crusts over. Ice sheets spread, but deeper currents still move, warmed slightly by Earth's core. Fish drift slowly through the cold, confused but alive, until the chill reaches farther. Eventually, entire seas lock up. Currents slow, coral dies, creatures freeze mid-swim. A whale becomes a sculpture, a school of fish, an accidental painting on a wall of ancient ice. The seafloor, once shifting, becomes still. Mountains and trenches preserved in crystal. It's not death in the violent sense, but in the stillest, most respectful way. The ocean bows out of motion, and when you look out across the horizon, there's no ripple, no tide, only a frozen mirror holding Earth's final reflections. How plants say goodbye. Before they vanish, plants go quiet. Leaves stop reaching, roots stop drinking. There's no alarm, no collapse, just a slow softening of colour, and then stillness. Without the sun, photosynthesis ceases. Chlorophyll fades. Green becomes grey. Petals fall early. Trees forget which direction is up. Vines loosen their grip. Flowers never open again, but they don't panic. Plants do not fear endings. Some release their last seeds into the wind. Others simply hold them tightly inside, waiting. A cactus in a lab, a sunflower in a sealed dome. Their memory lingers in scentless blossoms and unshed pollen. The forests fall silent, not with violence, but with grace, as if nature itself understood and let go with dignity. And in that final gesture, in the soft fading of green to white, Earth whispers one last thank you to the sun. The sound of a world without life. Have you ever wondered what silence truly sounds like? Not the quiet of night or of solitude, but the absence of anything that moves. Breath, wind, wings, even rustling leaves. In a world without the sun, sound loses its source. No thunder, no rain, no insects, no laughter. The earth becomes mute, not because it chooses to, but because there's nothing left to say. You might still hear your own heartbeat, the creak of old metal, a distant shift of ice. But these are not voices. They are echoes of effort, not intention. In this silence, some find peace, others sorrow. It's not frightening, but it is unfamiliar. Our species was born into noise, birdsong, waves, wind in grass. To live without it is to be somewhere new entirely. And maybe that's what true endings sound like, not with a bang, but with a breath that simply isn't followed by another. Does the sun remember us? Let's end this part with something tender, a question too poetic for science, but too human not to ask. Does the sun, wherever it has gone, remember us? It lit our skies for billions of years, carried our shadows, birthed our crops, painted our childhoods. It watched us rise and fall and love and build and burn. Maybe it collapsed into a black hole, maybe it flared into supernova, or maybe it drifted, slowly fading into a white dwarf, a ghost of light still glowing somewhere in the fabric of space. And maybe, just maybe, it still carries the memory of Earth in its core, a faint fingerprint, a gravitational echo of the blue dot it once held so dearly. We'll never know for sure. But in the end, whether or not the sun remembers us, we will always remember the sun. Can dreams outlive the dreamers? Somewhere beneath the surface, long after plants fade and people vanish, a notebook rests in someone's backpack. A song lives on in a hard drive. A drawing of the sun, made by a child, waits quietly in a sealed archive. These are more than objects. They're echoes of feeling, traces of wonder, a record not of data, but of dreaming. What if dreams, the silent kind, are the last things to leave? You see, even when the sun disappeared, people still imagined, still hoped, still invented little things, a story, a lullaby, a wish written on a napkin and tucked into a pocket. These small human sparks don't need to burn forever, but they can outlive their owners. They carry the shape of our minds, like fossilized thoughts waiting to be understood by someone or something else. And maybe that's what it means to leave behind a legacy. Not monuments, but moments. Dreams that linger like perfume in the absence of a body. How the sun made us who we are. The sun didn't just grow crops or mark time, it shaped who we are, biologically, culturally, emotionally. It told our skin how to colour, our rhythms how to hum, our hearts when to rise. Entire civilizations worshipped it, not out of superstition, but reverence. The sun was reliable, humble, present. It never asked for attention, yet always gave itself completely. A quiet parent we didn't thank nearly enough. Without it, our biology stumbles, our moods flatten, our bones weaken, even our thoughts get foggy. Because we were designed in light, every part of us, down to the tiniest cell, remembers its glow. Art changed too. Golden hours disappeared. Shadows stopped playing on walls. Language itself shifted. No more metaphors about rising suns or bright days or walking into the light. And now, in its absence, we realize just how much it shaped our every gesture. Even now, in the dark, we still reach for it. What the sun sees, it shapes. Let's step back in time to when the sun first lit Earth. Back then there were no people, no poems, just molecules learning how to dance. But the light gave them a rhythm. Photosynthesis began, then plants, then animals, then us. The sun didn't create life directly, but it gave life its stage, its script, its spotlight. It was both backdrop and force. Even now, scientists believe Earth's perfect distance from the sun, not too close, not too far, was the miracle, the Goldilocks zone, a cosmic accident wrapped in meaning. Everything that breathes owes a debt to this balance, the length of a day, the tilt of the Earth, the seasons that shaped migration, food, love, war, farming, fashion, all sun-touched. The sun didn't watch us like a god, but it shaped us like a sculptor, using warmth and time instead of tools. The one flame that lit every fire. Think about it. Every flame that ever burned on Earth was a gift from the sun. Campfires, candles, matches, gas stoves. They were all tiny reflections of a star 93 million miles away. Even the wood in a fire, grown by sunlight, the coal and oil, fossilized sunlight captured eons ago. The very idea of warmth is a memory of the sun's breath. So when we light a candle now, We aren't just creating heat, we're echoing a cosmic act, summoning a piece of the original flame. It's humbling, really. Every spark is a tribute. In the cold future, maybe someone still lights one, in a cave, in silence, to remember. And that little glow is the last flicker of a relationship that lasted billions of years. Fire, in the end, was never ours. It was loaned to us by the only star we ever called home. One day, another star might see us. Imagine, billions of years from now, a different star in a different corner of the galaxy gives life to a planet, a new world with oceans, trees, maybe even eyes that look up. And one day that world finds us, not alive but fossilized, not glowing but waiting. Earth wrapped in ice, holding its breath. They study our bones, decode our stories, listen to our music. They realize we were dreamers, warm-blooded, sunlit, brief but burning bright. And maybe they whisper to each other, this was a world that mattered. Perhaps they even find a preserved sunflower or a sculpture of the sun, and they understand we loved our star deeply. We knew it wasn't forever, but we loved it anyway. And in that moment, the memory of Earth becomes more than history. It becomes inspiration. A story passed forward, one star to another.